Welcome back to Africa This Week. On special days and occasions when it's a date that matters, red carpets are rolled over unresolved issues, and the people of a nation can effectively take the time out to celebrate the process and reflect on the journey so far. History takes us back to the morning of May the 29th, 1999, when democratic governance in Nigeria was restored after decades of military rule, ushering an era of periodic elections, vibrant oppositions, evolving issues, and surmountable challenges. Now, joining me to dig deep on Africa This Week is Alfred Kemepado, a policy analyst and youth leader. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
And let's start very quickly. What are your thoughts now on how Nigeria has fared so far in the last 19 years of democratic rule?
It's okay. Over the last 90 years, we have consolidated on our firm belief to have democracy stay. In the midst of that, we cannot deny that we have challenges, and up till now we are still having challenges. Some may describe challenges that some may describe the challenges as challenges that we should have got over. But that's what we have now.
Well, mixed reactions have trailed the President's Democracy Day speech, as expected. And when he referred to our democracy as being nascent, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think describing our democracy as being nascent was appropriate, considering the 19 years' time. And considering more of the fact that there is nothing, or there was almost nothing we could have applied in our democratic space that was reinventing the wheel. There was so much for us to learn from the advanced democracies. What we needed to do was to probably replicate it or advance it here. So the word nascent didn't really come in. And I think if the view of the president and the presidency of our democracy is still nascent, then we have a nascent problem.
All right. The true meaning of democracy seems to be different across the globe. What applies to Nigeria?
Well, I think it's still the same thing that applies to Nigeria. It's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, as they say. But in Nigeria, I would think that the institutions such as INEC has not been able to up their game to the extent that it makes the democracy really that of the people. By that, I mean the process of electioneering, as we speak till today, has not been able to reflect what the average citizen actually wants. You understand? Our elections arguably has been spiced by processes of rigging, and in recent time we are having the worst menace where votes are being bought. You understand? But we had expected that, or we are expecting the current INEC to improve upon the former electoral umpires, because like the time of Jega, the former INEC, that was about, thank God saved us from whatever crisis that may have come out of what he did. Because sometimes I see him, I think in the last INEC, which is what I expect this current one to improve upon, the last INEC made a whole lot of mistakes that would have thrown this country into chaos. You can imagine, despite the fact that the country and the good people of this country gave him so much time to shift the goalposts, funding, to see how we can have an electoral system that is reflective of the people's will. But yet, in the midst of an election, we announced that card readers could not work. But thank God for the kind of president we had then. If not for the acceptance of that fact, and that, okay, elections can go on, like changing the the referee or whatever I call it in the middle of the match, would have been thrown into crisis. So basically, these are the things we have gone through, and some religious quarters will say God has saved us from crises that were looming. You can imagine if there was anything negative at that point. So, but what we need to do, we need an INEC that can carry itself in a manner in the coming election that will announce candidate that is reflective of people's opinion, and try to see how they can kill this current monster of vote buying and see how they can sensitize people for it.
And talking about the will of the people, do you think over these 19 years we have been able to truly enjoy the dividends of democracy?
Well, I cannot say yes. We are very, very far from our
that.
hopes in terms of our infrastructure, in terms of our economy, in terms of our security system, in terms of everything that would have made us the pride of Africa. You understand? We are very, very far, but it's a work in progress. And like many quarters would say, and I agree with them, if the Nigerian project fails, all of us fail. So it's for all of us to put our hands, to be on the deck together to see how we can make it. We're very, very far. The economy is getting worse.
And what are these things that are making us far from, achieving proper democratic processes?
For me, I think number one is the issue of culture. When I say culture, I'm not talking about drama and dance. I'm talking about the entire value chain of a people, the entire value chain of Nigerians. We need to appreciate more those things that are sustainable. Upon culture, it is a tilting of the culture that breeds diseases such as the corruption and other things. So we need to reorientate ourselves. We need to revalue ourselves, to put country first, to put job first, to put Nigerian first ahead of selfish or personal aggrandizement, as you may say it. So the basic thing is culture. Then when you break culture down, you have components, the ugly components such as corruption, you understand? This particular administration in Nigeria was appreciated for its stand against corruption because of its antecedent. But we cannot also deny the fact that a fight against corruption in recent times has been perceived in many quarters in many ways, and rightly so, because people are perceived to have been persecuted based on their political lines.
Yeah.
And you cannot invalidate that, because take, for example, we have seen people move from the former party, the former ruling party, the PDP,
to the present
ruling party, with the APC, and automatically they are being perceived as saints. And even when you begin to circumcise, or when you begin to want to prosecute people in the former party, you begin to ask moral questions like, okay, in the former party, you say there were people like Femi Fani-Kayode, Olisa Metu, and others who received money for election. So the question people will want to ask is, while these people were receiving money, what happened to the party chairman? He never received money or anything, so
exactly.
He's being shielded from. So quarters will begin to say, okay, did he play some games? Did he align with the opposition at that particular point in time? That's why nobody's talking to him. Or is it because of the part of the country he comes from? So these are many things people are looking at. And you can see the party is fighting corruption in the past. We have heard cases of the former secretary to the government of the Federation being caught in a corruption scandal, investigated, and somehow, if you happen to use the word, found guilty by a panel headed by the vice president. And it took Nigerians to labor for him to be relieved of his job. Not only was he relieved of his job, we have not seen any form of prosecution. Not only have we not seen any form of prosecution in recent times, we have also heard that he has been made chairman of a committee to bring about leadership in Nigeria again. So when you begin to put all of these things in the balance, it will certainly create doubts in the minds of people, and rightly so.
My country. Well, inclusive participation across citizens, the various class of citizens, perhaps is very key to the development of our democratic processes. But how do we now rationalize the high level of political apathy on the part of the masses now?
Well, there is no need to rationalize it, because political apathy breeds political brigandage in administrative quarters and other things. So probably we should take platforms like this to tell people to be more inclusive in participating in the political space, because political apathy is not going to solve any problem for us. In short, as a matter of fact, most of the problems we are having are consequent upon political apathy in right areas, probably among the youth. So, but you would not also blame those who have been politically apathized, because every time you work hard to bring a government on board, most times it comes out disappointing. Like the Nigerians had so much hope in this government. When you begin to make, indeed we did. Because when you begin to make promises during your campaign, how you're going to fight corruption, how you're going to expunge Boko Haram, and today not only is Boko Haram prospering in other areas. We have added to the ranks of Boko Haram with the menace of the herdsmen. Not only did you promise that we're going to up the economy, and the economy is going to be good so much that the ruling party mouthed that it's going to make ₦1 equivalent to $1.
And we're plunged into a recession.
A recession, and today it's about $3.62 to the dollar. So these are discouraging particles. Not only that, this ruling party also talked about the restructuring of this country. And that is not a debate.
And 3 years into the first term,
we are not talking.
We're still, yeah.
Yes, and you see, if not for politics, nobody should undermine the restructuring of this country. However, restructuring does not mean the disintegration of the country. Restructuring simply means lay the Nigerian conversation on the deck and see how we can do things better. See how we can be more productive from our units.
From the previous parts,
you
yes.
understand? From the units, and be more so that the collective prosperity of the units can now make
a whole.
You understand? And that's how developed societies work. I believe when we were younger, we read this book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And The Richest Man in Babylon, you know, the crux of that book was that the prosperity of Babylon was not the prosperity of Babylon as a whole. It was the individual prosperities of Babylon that made it. So that is the kind of system we're looking at, because even the oil that we are depending on, it's like we are sitting on a time bomb. So until we begin to consider the structure, both economic, both political and social,
well, they're promising us a lot of diversification into various other industries. What will be your scorecard for our democratic process, and what are your projections for Nigeria in the future?
I will project good, because I want to be a prophet of good, not a prophet of doom.
I'm sure.
You understand? So I will say all Nigerians should keep faith with a good projection, but we need to work hard at it. It doesn't come by just mouthing it, because currently the circumstances we have found ourselves, especially in terms of electioneering, especially in terms of our economy, in terms of our security, and the fight against corruption, which are all cardinal. The circumstances we have found ourselves are not encouraging. This is not to castigate the present government, but this is to alarm the present government that you need to work hard. And the present government should also work hard to increase the space for the opposition, because that is what makes a democracy firm. Increasing the space for an opposition does not necessarily mean you are undoing your policies, but it firms a democracy, makes you see, okay.
I must ask you this question before you go. Something new in our democracy in the country. The Not Too Young to Run bill has just been passed by the president. Does this bring hope for Nigerians?
Yeah, it brings hope for Nigeria, because it has created space for more people to participate. But what is most important is not about how young you are or how old you are. What is most important is what capacity have you built in yourself, and what are you bringing on the deck with respect to assignments that will be assigned to you or that you will contest for, that you have to deliver on. It's not a bill that would have created room for rascal young people who have no experience or what to bring upon. You understand? I want young people to come on board, probably because I'm also young. I'm of that reason. But you must come on board to express capacity to deliver as it's obtainable. It's not about saying Macron or this course guy of Australia, but you must also put on the capacity. So rather than young ones to be excited about the bill, young ones should now begin to concentrate on how they can train themselves, educate themselves, discipline themselves, put themselves under good tutelage to develop capacity.
Well,
so
now
that when
the fight is for them to reduce the costs of buying these forms for any elective posts in the country. Alfred Kemepado, policy analyst and youth leader, thank you very much for joining me on Africa This Week.
Thanks for having me.
Well, so much to reflect and analyze on. The essence of governance and the dividends of democracy for a nation going through a challenging phase in time ahead of a general election less than 265 days from now. stuck between the past and the future. Creating a present that will work for generations to come in Nigeria requires a paradigm shift and the political will to ensure that democracy counts for everyone. I have been your guide, Fadishola Shotingwa. Many thanks for watching and bye for now.